Welcome to the PostalMate webinar, QR codes, and some new rules for international and more in version 14.4 coming soon. How soon? We'll talk about that shortly. So when you are updating PostalMate, this update is going to do some interesting things. So you may have noticed that your backups have been taking longer when you do them. The reason for that is when we moved to dynamic rating, to protect you, we turned on what's called logging in the development and IT world. And that basically creates a paper trail of the shipping you're doing. The problem is, of course, that those logs add up and build up over time and get kind of starts to clutter up the backup and what have you. And so we are comfortable at this point that everything is as we hoped it would be and smooth. So beginning with this update, it will purge the old logs that are not needed any longer. So this should speed up your backups. I won't promise you they will be as quick as before yet, because we're still going to do some logs, but they will be much, much quicker. They should be much, much quicker than it has been. So we appreciate your patience on that. I'm sorry, there we go. So here we go. Now, this is what you came for. I know you did. This is what got you, and it's a got me. I confess I used a marketing gimmick and teased you with QR codes. So I have bad news, I have good news, and I have great news. So as you can expect, your next question is going to be, which QR codes will work? And then your next question should be, how, when, what do I need to do, right? Okay, so we're going to go right to it. So the first one we'll talk about is the USPS label broker. Yes, that will work in PostalMate in version 14.4. We're very excited to bring this to you. We'll go through that today and show you how that works. That's the great news. The good news, FedEx QR codes. It's soon. It's in this version of PostalMate, but it will not be turned on yet. FedEx is working through a few things on their back end, so we will wait for them to complete that, but it could be just a few weeks. You will not have to update again in order to get it. Like I said, we just have it hidden. What happens is when all the flags are green and we can go with this, we send a silent e-update to you at night. And when you launch PostalMate in the morning, that will apply and it will be there magically. You will have to go and turn it on. We'll send you an email letting you know that it is there and how to enable it. So that is coming soon. I don't know if it's 2 weeks away, 4 weeks away, or 6 weeks away, but it's already built. We've done our part. It's already in PostalMate. We're going to talk a little bit more about FedEx QR codes. Now, for you old timers that have been around a while like me, you know the answer to the next one and you know what the bad news is. But for you newbies or newer owners or operators, maybe you don't know the whys. So we're going to talk about some of the whys. And that is the UPS/Amazon QR codes. And will they be available in PostMate? And the answer is no. And there's really good reasons for that, but we're going to talk about that shortly. And I'm going to explain that to you so you have a really good understanding of what prohibits it and maybe what the battle is to get them, because we all want them. I want them. You want them. So we'll talk about that just shortly. But let's go back to what you need to do now. So what you need to do is get a 2D scanner. So most of you have only a 1D scanner. It cannot read QR codes. It can only read barcodes. A few of you may already have a 2D scanner. That's perfect. If you need more, you can get more. I'm going to recommend that you reach out to this company, TechShed. They are our partner in crime as far as supplying all the hardware in the industry. You do not have to use them, but we will only support the models that they sell. So if you don't get the models from them, it must be one of the models that they sell. That's the only way you're going to get any assistance. If you happen to scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, it'll take you right to their page. So, you can try that and see how your phone is a QR code reader automatically. Just use the camera function if you're old like me and don't know how to do that. And it will pop up and you will be able to go to TechShed. Otherwise, you can just go to their email address and order from there. Now, they have 11 different scanners and you can get as fancy or as not fancy as you want. I will tell you this, that these scanners tend to be a little bit delicate. So if you're in the bad habit of dropping scanners in your store, that's not going to be a healthy thing for your scanners. The other thing I want to share with you is if you purchase a scanner outside of TechShed USA and you purchase it somewhere else, and it is not a model that TechShed sells, then you're on your own. If you try to call our support team and get assistance with it because it's not scanning it properly, we don't have any training on it. We don't have any skill set on it. You're on your own. You can do it. I'm not telling you you can't do it. I'm just saying be prepared to you generally have to program them before you can use them. Programming them is not difficult, but it's on you to do so. So there's at least one or two programming codes you have to scan. One sets it up to scanner defaults, and the other one is usually going to add the return on it so that when you scan something in, you don't have to hit OK on PostalMate. It will just be automatic. So those are the scans you're going to need at minimum. Some of the off brands, yeah, you can get a $30 cheapy Amazon one, or you can get a used one on eBay if you want to risk your money. That's up to you, but just be aware of that. If you do get one of those scanners we support, please get it new. Used equipment, especially off of Amazon and eBay, is notoriously bad because you don't know how it was programmed for the previous user, usually a business, and often has proprietary. We see it with label printers all the time, that they've been altered internally and cannot be changed. And people have wasted $200 buying a printer instead of getting a $300 one that's brand new. So make sure that you do get that scanner and then get it, I would start looking today or tomorrow and ordering that because TechShed's going to, they are prepared. They know about this. We keep them in the loop. So they do have a good stock right now. But like I said, I've got 1,500 people on this webinar, over 1,500 people on this webinar. It's going to go fast. They're going to go fast. So let's talk about Label Broker. You're going to enable it first in PostMate. So when you get your update, it always has the update guide. So we email you a notification, the update's available. And in the email, you can click on a button for the update guide. So right there, you can see it. Or when you actually do the update, one of the first pop-ups that come up is, would you like to read the update guide? You can click right there and read the update guide. So you have lots of opportunities to read the update guide. That's how you're going to learn how to enable it, because what I teach you now and what you remember by the time you do it, you will forget because you're doing so many work things. I get that. So you're going to enable it. You just select drop off. There will be a new feature, new button, and we'll look at it, where you can specifically push a button to scan a QR code, and then you'll scan it and the label will print. And then you're going to record that as a drop-off, just like normal. Okay, so here's what some new screens look like in PostalMate. And if we have time at the end, we can go live to my PostalMate and take a look at it. So this screen is a little bit different. You'll notice up here, we have this new button right here, print QR code, right? So, and then this is this button that comes up once you you scan the QR code right here, and it goes in here, and it looks really weird. See how weird this is? That's normal. It looks really weird. So just accept that. And if your scanner, and I'm hoping they all do, because I don't have a lot of experience, and I'll talk about that with this yet. I'm hoping you don't have to press OK, that it will just continue on, but I am not 1,000% certain of that. You might have to press OK on QR codes. We'll see. So basically the instructions are down here. You scan it, you print the label, and you record it as a drop-off. Easy peasy. If you're wondering what QR codes are supported, you can click this button here, and we will modify that as the QR codes increase, the type of QR codes increase. Sometimes with Label Broker, it needs a zip code. So let me explain how Label Broker, if you have not used it at the USPS website, and most of you have, I think, but if you have not, it is assumed by PostalMate that the return address, which is usually the person bringing in the package, is local to you. And so probably matches your store. So PostalMate automatically sends the zip code of your store with this QR code to USPS. But sometimes, and especially if you happen to have a store that is bordering other zip codes in your community, many of your customers will not be of your same zip code. And so when it does not match, you'll get this pop-up that will say, enter the 5-digit zip code. Now, this is the return address zip code that would be associated with the QR code. Almost always, it's where the package was shipped to and now they're returning it. So usually the person's home or work. Very rarely it's a third-party place, but it can happen. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I got a package and I have a QR code and I have to return it for work. Now, my local zip code is in Arizona, but my mother company is out of New Jersey. So it is possible that the company, the QR code could have been associated with the New Jersey zip code instead of my local office zip code. That's a rarity. You're going to have to work with your customer to figure that out. That's nothing PostalMate could ever help you with. There's no magic bullet for that one. My understanding is that stores that have been doing QR codes by using the USPS website are already familiar with that, and this does happen rare, but it does happen on occasion. So most of the time, your store zip code that sends with the QR code will be fine, and this pop-up will not appear. Yeah, there's what it looks like closer up, guys. But occasionally, if it does, this pop-up will appear and you just enter the postal code, click OK, and you're going to get the label. Okay, so when you get the label, it's just going to print out 4x6 like always. You go ahead and pop that label on the box. Now, you should scan that in as a drop-off. If you don't scan that in as a drop-off, it's going to give you a reminder saying, hey, you scanned a QR code that printed a label successfully. Do you want to scan it? Do you want to continue, or do you want to scan it? And some of the words on this might change just a little bit. And this is all brand new to me too, so I'm stumbling just a little bit with the words here. But basically, it's reminding you, it's a nag, it's a PostalMate nag. We have a mother-in-law that lives inside of your PostalMate computer and nags you on things once in a while, because understandably for post office, it's not, you don't get reimbursed and you don't get money, but for other carriers you do. And so we wanted to create a nag so that you don't lose out on drop-off compensation. All right. So that's Label Broker. Now let's talk FedEx. So this is coming soon. As I said, the technology is already in PostalMate. We're waiting for a few other things to happen. And when this happens, FedEx has created a way for you to be announced, your store location to be announced on their locator as a store that accepts QR codes. Now, what I can tell you is that will drive a significant volume of QR code drop-off customers to your store. That can be a good thing or that can be a bad thing. And we're going to talk about both and why it can be good or bad. In general, it's a good thing for most stores. Most stores, their biggest problem in making more money and growing is that people don't realize they're there. They just drive by blindly and don't see them, or maybe you're just hidden or tucked away a little bit too much and you don't get noticed. So this will bring some volume to your store and hopefully they will come back. If they're treated well, they will come back when they actually have to ship or do other business with you. So the idea of being on the locator is fantastic. The downside is that not all QR codes are created equal. So FedEx has a number of programs for QR codes, and the vendors or their partners, so the return companies, and I don't know, let's make up some ones here, Nike, Gap, all those, they can use get into specific QR programs. Now, it can be as simple as the ones you're familiar with, where the QR code comes up on your phone and it comes into your store and you scan it and you get a label. But it can be all the way as complicated as one that sends them return merchandise information and communicates directly with the vendor in the back end. And it can be as complicated as even there is a program with FedEx, just like with UPS. It's called, we typically call it in this industry, packageless verify. And that is where a person's going to bring in a shirt and set it down in front of you. It's not in the package and they have to return it. And part of that program is you have to verify that it is a shirt and it kind of looks like a shirt, maybe with a picture on the screen. That is not a part of what we're doing at all. Okay. We are just doing the basic QR codes. But what that means, and that's the only program that FedEx is opening up to you at this time. So what that means is, of the world of QR codes out there, not all of them will be successful at your store, and they will not know if they will be successful at your store until you scan it. There's no identifying feature on it that will tell them or tell you that it will or won't work until it's actually scanned at your store, which is unfortunate. So that is something you're going to have to work through on that. Is it okay to turn people away? Because you're going to end up telling them to go to the FedEx office or similar place, the FedEx hub, to that. And we all have problems turning customers away. That's never something that you want to do. But it is a real thing. You won't be able to do it until FedEx expands the programs. We're hoping that they do so soon. If you are going to the big conventions that are coming up, the RS Expo in Dallas the last week of May, FedEx will be there. This is your opportunity to tell them that you're excited about this and you want, everything, all the programs they can for QR codes, or you want all of them but X, Y, and Z. And talk to them about that, because they'll be interested in listening, because this is a big deal to FedEx. I mean, this is potentially 3,700 new drop-off locations for them for QR codes. That's a huge deal when they're talking with their vendors and partnering with them, that there's potentially 3,700 new drop-off locations all over the world. So the other thing, so when that QR code comes in and you scan it, if you do not get a label, do not accept the package, okay? If you accept the package and it doesn't print a label, you're in limbo. You've got a package, you have no idea who it was that dropped it off and where it's supposed to go, and no way to possibly get a label because you don't have the QR code. The customer did. So if you don't get a label immediately, do not accept it. Crystal clear? I hope so. I have a poll I want you to participate in, and this is going to help us. I'm going to give this information right off the front to FedEx directly. So I need you to be as honest as possible. If you don't have one of the answers on this, please don't respond. That way it will be as accurate as possible for the people who do answer. I'm hoping that I get a really high participation on this. So let's go, hang on here. Takes just a minute here. Okay, so hopefully you can see that poll. And I'd like you to respond. I'm interested in QR codes in my store if, okay. And this has to do with how many people you would have to turn away. And I'm going to close this poll in 5, 4, 3, hurry up, 2, 1, close. Okay, I'm going to share the results with you so that you can see, because I think it's important that we are able to see, and hopefully the results are showing now. 39% said I'll do it ASAP. 28%, however, wanted 90% or more. 17% at 75% or better, and 13% at 50% or better. Only 4% would do it if only 25%. So that's really important to know. I'm going to go ahead and hide this now. And like I said, I will share that with FedEx directly. And when I finish the webinar, I'll be able to find out how many of you took the poll. So it looks like 63% of you. So thank you very much for that. That helps us a lot. Okay, now I promised you I would answer your questions about the following. Let's see here. Why not Amazon? So here's the deal. You now have the capability of scanning the QR code because you're getting a 2D scanner. And PostalMate clearly has the ability to read that and send that data to an API. In this case, they would be sending it to the UPS QR code API, which is API is basically, in simple person's terms, the receiving end of it. So they can read it and send back a label. But here's the deal. UPS API for QR codes is locked. It's called encrypted, meaning that they won't allow us to communicate with it. We can send data and they won't receive it and they won't process it and they won't send a return label. So the gist of it is that the current Amazon/UPS QR code program is specific to the UPS store. There's an agreement there, a contract, a legal agreement between Amazon and the UPS stores, and they are exclusive on that. They do have other exclusive, so they are exclusive in the retail shipping marketplace. That doesn't mean they're the only ones. For example, many of you know that Kohl's has accepted Amazon QR codes. So there are other partners that Amazon has, usually big box, what we call big box partners that can also handle it. And then, of course, Whole Foods, but Whole Foods is owned by Amazon, so that they don't count. So until your store is invited to participate by Amazon in that program, you won't be able to do that. And they won't leverage the technology to us until they have a general agreement in this industry. So that's why it won't be available and has not been available in the past. It was never a limitation of PostalMate. It was also always that it was restricted and encrypted between UPS and Amazon. So hopefully that clears up a whole bunch of things. I do know at the end of last year, and I haven't read any updates on this, the UPS store was pulling back from some of those programs. And if you've walked into a UPS store over the last couple of years, you know that it seems like 90% of their business is Amazon returns. So it's a big hassle for them. I don't know it's a big moneymaker, but here's the thing. It drives people to their store so people know where their store is. And that's what I'm hoping the FedEx QR codes will do for our stores, because visibility is everything. So that's all I have for now on the QR codes. As I said, we can go back and look at it in PostalMate at the end of the webinar if we have time. So the next item is international changes in PostalMate. And so the first one is a change in version 14.4 that we've made. So currently, commercial invoices for DHL is created by PostalMate. For UPS, it's created by UPS. FedEx, again, a PostalMate commercial invoice, and Endicia creates the invoice. So it's a mix. So in version 14.4, we are moving to using the carriers will all create their own commercial invoice. What does that mean for you? Okay, well, the first thing it means is that the commercial invoices that you print might look a little different than you remember in the past. But the data entry that you're doing is the same as you're doing today. So we have not changed PostalMate screens due to these changes. It will look exactly as it does today. It will function exactly as it does today. It's just that when it prints out, it might look a little different. We still store the data in our back end, so we have a PostalMate commercial invoice as a backup should you need it. But when you send the information to the carrier, they will be using their own commercial invoice. So this means that in 14.4, all of your commercial invoices are EDI. And that the rule is if it prints, you should include the paper commercial invoice. So let me explain that. And this is a question that's come up a few times, and I promised I would address it if I remembered, and I did. Particularly, I've heard reports of UPS charging a fee because a paper invoice was used. And that is if you used PostalMate for that shipment, you should dispute that fee. Because what's happened is we do send the EDI electronic data something is what it is. We do send the EDI, which means that you are doing everything correct, and they should not impose that fee on you. What happens, I think this is my interpretation of what happens, is because we are a retail shipping store, we're required to have the commercial invoice in paper also, because it has your customer's signature on it. See, the digital signature on the EDI doesn't come from your customer. It's actually a digital store signature. So they need that paper signature, paper with the signature from your customer for legal reasons. So we're required at this point to include the paper commercial invoice. Some lazy person along the way at UPS saw a paper invoice and flagged it and charged you, I think it's $10, charged you the $10. They didn't bother looking that you had also sent the appropriate EDI. So I don't know logistically, an overused word in our industry, if there is any way that we're going to get around this because of the legal requirements. I'm hoping in the future that as long as you have the paper invoice on file locally in your store with the customer signature, that maybe they will allow us to stop printing them and including them. But that is a decision each carrier will make individually. That is not a decision for PostalMate. So just know the rule is, if it prints, you should include the paper CI, or if it tries to print. You know what I mean. When it pops up and it says it's printing, yes, you print it. Right now, that's all of them. So there is no exception to printing the paper invoice. All carriers require it. Bruno, are you talking on international? I'm looking at the questions. I shouldn't do that. Okay. Okay, we're going to get to that. Next item coming up in version 14.4 is a tax ID entry. So currently, at least 4 countries require what we're calling a tax ID. Now, every country calls it something different. So tax ID is PostalMate's term for it. It's kind of the general term if you start Googling things too. But the tax ID is what we're calling it in PostalMate, so that we don't have to refer to some different code for every stinking country. And I think this will increase over time. There will be more countries that require this. So when you're sending a package to somebody in Brazil or in Mexico, those countries require this tax ID to be included, and it's the tax ID of the receiver. So if it's a company, I think both those countries, let's see. Yes, both those countries, I think, have a different number for a company than they do for the person. But either way, you have to include that. It's a little bit similar to a Social Security number or EIN in the United States, but it's not. And here's what I mean. In the United States, you would never have your Social Security number out in the public, right? It's tied to too many other things. In these countries, this tax ID number is not tied to anything. It's perfectly normal to have it floating out in their world, out in the open. It's not secret, it's not sensitive. So here's the deal. If you don't have it, the receiving country can reject the package, and you don't get a refund for that. That's on you. You're the shipping professional. So you need to include this. The entry for that will now be in the receiving the ship to's record. So when you're entering the ship to, and it's to Mary Jones and such address and such, and and it's in Mexico, there'll be a field now. I want to say, we might be able to look at it when we go live. I want to say it's near where you enter the phone number for the tax ID. And it's there for all countries, not just the countries we know of. And I will just tell you up front, we're not going to be able to keep track of what countries require it and what countries don't. That's going to be, those things change, and those countries don't notify PostalMate. So to have somebody constantly researching that and staying on top of that. So I would just make it a habit of starting to ask your customers, especially if it's one of these 4 countries, Brazil, Chile, Peru, and Mexico. If there is a tax ID, and just do not send to Mexico without one. From this point forward, do not send to Mexico without a tax ID for a package. They are right now returning packages left and right. So you do need to include that. And until 14.4 is released, put it in the notes section on the commercial invoice. Once 14.4 is released, then you can or you can handwrite it in on the commercial invoice by the ship to's address. That works too. And okay, I'm getting tons. So the question is, can we restrict you from sending? So this is Karen's answer. No, because we're not keeping track of which countries can do it. However, the short answer is yes, of course, it's technology. We can do anything. And in fact, I lost the battle. We will be reminding you if it's going to Brazil or Mexico, because we know those two are the two most strict countries, particularly Mexico. So we will have a pop-up for those. Please, please don't expect us to have a pop-up for every country and keep on top of that. It's just not going to be feasible. And so the person who is sending this package needs to be the person giving you that tax ID. If they don't know it, you need to tell them they've got to get it. People who send to Mexico usually know that. It would be the only persons that wouldn't would be like an eBay sale or something weird like that. They might not would know, but the people in Mexico, receivers in Mexico, they all know. They use this number for a lot of things and they know it's required. So chances are very good that your customer can get it by contacting the ship to pretty easily. So that would be the next thing, is you would have your customer go there. I don't believe it is for documents. I am not wholly convinced on that, but I'm pretty convinced on that. I believe it is only for merchandise or packages. So if you have a box and the box has documents, I would put it on, because customs, you never know what they're going to do. So I would say it's just better to have it. And by the way, once you enter it in PostalMate, it saves it. So that's pretty cool. And I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe we did it so that, don't quote me on this, I haven't tested this and I'm hoping I remember this right. Let's say you have an address in your database now from somebody in Mexico and you ship to them for a customer fairly frequently. And you come in and you pick the from and you pick the to and you go on the screen and you get to the screen, you pick the rate and you go in and you click finish. I believe we will have a pop-up that says, would you like to add the tax ID for the recipient? And you can enter it there and it will save it to the ship to record. I believe we did that. We were working on that. I believe that's in 14.4. I'm hoping. So we're trying to make it easy for you to save it to the shipper record. And you only need to do that once, because it's for the receiving entity. So once it's there, it's there. And I'm sorry, the questions are going, the question thing is going crazy right now. And I'm not going to be, this is not this has nothing to do with you. This is not your tax ID. It's not your store's tax ID. Has nothing to do with you. This is the receiver's tax ID. So Juan Hernandez in Mexico, his tax ID, please. That's the one you need. Okay. ABC Cooking Company in Mexico City. You need ABC Cooking Company's tax ID, the one for in Mexico. Don't replace it with any other number. It has to be theirs. 90 days, Sandra. Okay, so we're getting into individuals have tax IDs, as do companies in Mexico. Same thing in Brazil. And I'm going to guess the same thing is true for Chile and Peru, but I don't know specifically. A good Google search is going to give you information on that. So remember, I do PostalMate. I don't do all this other stuff, but I try to get the information to you. So please research this. I believe this is required for every carrier, because it's not carrier specific. This is country specific. What if we are sending to an American citizen in one of these countries? Oh, burn. Great question. I don't have an answer for you. I do not have an answer. I would say type in the notes, not a Mexican citizen. has no tax ID or has no, in Mexico, I think it's called an RFC and a CURP. And I'm going to get it backwards. I know I am. Look at Google it. One of them is for a person and the other one is for a company, I believe. So um, you do not use their social security number. Don't put their social security number. Never, ever put a social security number. Never put a social security number. Not once, not twice, not never. Yes, never, never. Do not put a social security number. I would, UPS told a customer to use their driver's license number. I don't even like that, but I suppose that might be okay. I don't know. I can't advise you. PostalMate is not advising you on this. Talk to the carrier. Please call the carrier on that. And some people have an EIN in the United States personally. EINs typically are replacement numbers if you don't have a social security number or don't want to use their social security numbers. EIN numbers are not as sensitive as a social security number, but most people don't have one. I happen to have one because I was self-employed and had multiple businesses, but my daughter and my son, for example, they don't have an EIN. That's not normal. So could you use an EIN? Probably. Again, I don't know what the sensitivity level is of it. I am uncomfortable making any recommendations other than the following. Do not use a social security number, ever. That's my main point here. Okay. I do not have any other specifics on that. I wish I did. It should not matter whether it's a gift or it's a sale. It still is going to require that. If taxes are possible on it, then it's for sure going to need it. All right, and I apologize. We weren't able to get any information from carriers on this. This actually came into effect. My first known instance of this was in 2020. Brazil was the first one to bring it forward. So they've had this rule since 2020, but they have not really enforced it. Mexico started, I was aware of it coming last year, but they started enforcing it in January 1. The reason PostalMate had to wait to put it in PostalMate is because we had to wait for all 4 of the big carriers to come up with the way for us to transmit that number to their commercial invoice that was being used. So we had to wait for them to write that code so that when we sent it, it had a field to drop into for their commercial invoice. Hopefully that's understandable. Another new feature coming in PostalMate, rate visibility. So I'm really excited about this. So hold on. So many of you who have been users of PostalMate for a year or longer will remember this is a reintroduction of the C rate. So we still have the A and D, but we took away the C number for FedEx, UPS, and DHL. And the reason it was taken away is because the carriers did not send that data to us to receive, and we no longer store those records. So there are some carriers it will not be there for. So let's move on. So this is an example of what it looks like. This happens to be post office. It's right here in that upper corner. Most of you are aware of this. The A, C, and D. This is how your PostalMate looks right now, or could look. You have to turn these on, but this is most of you do have it enabled this way. So for a post office package, you will get an A, C, and D rate. There it is blown up, so you can see what that looks like. Just as a reminder to you, the A is your actual cost. That should be what you're billed, okay? The C number is the published rate before any discounts. So for the post office, that's the post office rate. If you go into the post office, that's what you would pay for this item. And the D rate is the dollars profit. So what you're making on this package. So basically, D plus A equals the rate you're charging your customer on the rate comparison screen. So which carriers are coming for this? Right now, only UPS and DHL will have this feature. It is beta. And here's what I mean by that. We do not have carrier accounts with UPS and DHL and FedEx that have the same rate programs that you are on. It seems silly, but the carriers won't give us those. So when we test things, we can't see if it's matching what it needs to match specifically for you. We're, we have sore knees from getting on our knees, kneeling and praying to them, pleading with them to give us those accounts, but they don't. And so much of the testing that we do is limited. So I'm actually putting a beta label on this. This is Karen's beta label. It's not official. It's a Karen's beta tag on this. I think that I'm not 1,000% convinced the C rate will always be correct, but I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't have, we as a group on our team, we kind of get together and say, are we ready? Is this good enough to release? Are we confident that this is good data? And we are confident that it is good. Could there be something that comes back that's not accurate? Absolutely, because we are not able to test it all. So with that in mind, I think it's quite reliable, the C number, and that will help you in knowing the C number should be the retail rate for UPS. In other words, that should be the rate that shows up at ups.com for customers and at the UPS store, which is really nice to be able to have that and look at it again. We are working with FedEx to see if we can bring that. Our goal is to have that to you as soon as we are able to. Right now, the numbers being returned that we are testing don't appear to be correct. So we're waiting to see if they have different fields we should be requesting to get those returned correctly so that we can have confidence that the C number will be correct for FedEx too. When we release that, it should not require an update to you. I think that might be an e-updatable, and I might be speaking wrong, but I think it will be, where you'll start seeing the C for FedEx. I don't think it will be in coming weeks. I do think it will be in coming months, crossing fingers. All right, so more features in PostalMate. Upon backing up PostalMate, we're going to allow you now and encourage you to start making your database smaller. And part of that is those logs we talked about at the beginning, but another part of it is stored commercial invoices. And these are actually stored locally, long-term, on your C drive. And so what we're asking is, would you like to delete the old commercial invoices that are more than 90 days old? And generally, you're going to want to select yes. So it will purge and get rid of those older ones. If you have a package that's in dispute, you can say no. If it's an old one that's older than 90 days, you can certainly say no. But this will reduce the size of everything that gets stored on your computer. So hopefully that will be helpful. And then another feature that's coming in 14.4 is we did update USPS form 1583. So they released a new form 1583 in April of 23, I believe. I think to April of 23, and that's the one we've had in PostalMate. They snuck another one in last June and just were really quiet about it. And the reason it wasn't made a big deal is because there were no material changes in it, meaning none of the entry, excuse me, I'm going to need some water. None of the entry for you is going to change in the new update. It's mostly some verbiage changes, so some word changes, particularly in their I don't want to say, it's not a disclaimer, but their informational stuff. They reworded things on that, and I think some of the word changes had to do with the notary and stuff like that. So that was changed in June of 24. So we got that into this PostalMate, and so it's not a big deal, but just know that when you print it out, it'll be the newest form now. So now the question is, when is PostalMate 14.4? And so the secret is I like to do webinars on the day of release when I can, but that didn't happen this time. So we are probably about, we're looking at a little bit of time yet. So this webinar is held a couple of weeks early, but I couldn't, the next 2 weeks, I am busy with convention stuff. So I wouldn't have the opportunity to do the webinar. So it was now or never, and I wanted to get you this information. So we anticipate a target release for this update for mid-April. So it's not that far away. It's just a few weeks away. Meanwhile, you can order your 2D scanners. You've got a couple weeks, that means, to get your 2D scanners and get them on board. That will allow you to not have to pay quick postage or quick shipment to get to you. And so we'd like you to take care of that. And then some additional important information I want to talk about. So we've had a rash of these, and it's been an issue actually for a long time, but I'm going to have to go back in time for those of you who have been around a long time. And this has to do with carrier branded boxes for FedEx. So carrier branded boxes, if you go back in the service guides many years ago, and for years, they had something called a minimum billable weight. And for all of the cardboard boxes, that minimum billable weight was 2 pounds. And for the triangle tube, it was 7 pounds. Meaning if you put something in there that was stupid lightweight, like feathers, and it only weighed 12 ounces, you would be charged a minimum of 2 pounds when you use the carrier branded express boxes. Well, they removed those words from the carrier service guide a few years ago. They didn't tell anybody they removed them. And we're noticing this year they are now using dimensional weight for carrier branded express boxes consistently. So that means that if you have those feathers in that box and it's a large FedEx Express box, you're going to charge your customer for 2 pounds, and it's going to dimensional out at 6 pounds. And since Express is always an air service and a more expensive service, you're going to lose money on that shipment big time. So we're looking at our options with this, and we will devise a long-term solution. I mean, there's really 3 or 4 solutions. We could remove all the carrier boxes for FedEx from carrier branded packaging in PostalMate. We could enter the dimensions for you on that those boxes are. But the problem is, for example, a large box, there's a couple of different sizes and they're not exactly the same. So that doesn't quite work. So we're working with it. So my short-term workaround for you is if you're using these boxes, we're not talking the envelope, guys, the cardboard boxes. If you're using these cardboard boxes, select generic packaging and don't use carrier branded, and just enter the DIMS as you just pretend it's a brown box and use it that way. The rating will then be correct. And when we make a long-term change, I will update. We will send an email. Well, we will send an email. It'll be in an update guide, and we'll mention it in a coming webinar. So let me just show you kind of what we're talking about here. So when you're choosing generic packaging or carrier branded packaging, currently you choose carrier branded packaging to get to the pricing for those boxes, and it goes something like this, and it goes like this. And then you get to the rate comparison screen. You have a couple of choices here. Now, everything I said is not true for one rate. So we're only talking about the ones that are in the circle down below. If you're using one rate, you still, which we used to call flat rate in PostalMate, if you're using one rate, you still want to use carrier branded. And I know this is getting as clear as mud for you, but the rule is if you know when you're going into this that you're going to use one rate, continue to select carrier branded because that's the only place one rate rates are. If you are going to not use one rate, and many of you have one rate turned off in your computers or not showing, then I'm going to recommend the short-term workaround is to use generic packaging, going back to that main screen, selecting generic packaging and entering the actual dimensions of the box. And measure that box each time because, bulging can make it. And again, we always recommend you round up because packages can change shape during shipping. This is, to our knowledge, only for FedEx. Okay. If it happens to one of the other carriers, I will let you know. Um, can you turn off the FedEx box option? You absolutely can. That's in your service display, and you can remove them from your service display. But again, the workaround for that is just go to generic because they don't show up as boxes. Generic only thinks everything is a brown box. Everything to it is a generic box, an Amazon box or a box you sell or a padded envelope or whatever. That's what it thinks it is. So if you just use this, then you don't have to turn it off in your. But if you're worried about your employees, yes, you can. Um, uh, Manoli, can I just tell you I love you? Um, I'll take a look at that because I'm not wholly convinced that they should ever be dimensionalized. I'm in conversations with FedEx on this, but here's the thing. Here's my position. I'm here to protect you guys. And if FedEx is consistently charging people for dimensions, and when a store disputes it, billing department says, we have that right. We can use dimensions and you can't get out of it, my job is to protect you from being overcharged. So until they either make the rule clear and abide by it, I'm going to protect you first on this. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And it puts me in a tough position because the carriers they're not always real happy with me because I'll call them out when I think something's not quite right. And I think something's not quite right here. Don't get me wrong. I love FedEx. They are fantastic people. I use FedEx in my store a lot. And I love FedEx to this day. But the one person who's making their rules, I don't like that guy. Okay. And he doesn't like me. So um okay. And please don't go off on FedEx on this. Every carrier has their areas where they're wacky, wonky, and make me mad. So FedEx is not making me mad on this. I just want to protect you. I will, if you're a consistent watcher of webinars, I promise when we get a resolution to this, we will notify you. I'm hoping that somebody comes to me and says, "Oh no, you really should be only charged the same as on the website," because the website doesn't make you enter dimensions and doesn't dimensionalize. And if a store does get this, here's the resolution and the path to get their money back. That's what I want them to do. So, because billing can make mistakes, I allow that. Billing, they have a big job, they can make mistakes. It would be better if it would just be coded in so that it wouldn't happen. But hey, I don't get to make their rules. Thank goodness. Okay. So hopefully this is all clear, more clear than mud. So then you get to the rate comparison screen. It's just going to show as a regular box then, even though it's a carrier branded box. By the way, guys, don't accidentally use FedEx home delivery or FedEx ground on that carrier branded box. They will bill you probably for priority overnight, the most expensive they can on that, because you can only use those carrier branded boxes for a qualifying air service. And Saver is not one of them. 3-day is not one of them. So you're going to have to be careful on that. You're going to have to know the rules. That's why I say I don't like this workaround, but do what you have to do to not lose money on it. Okay. I'm going to share with you just a quick story and we're just about to get into some Q&A here. Have you ever noticed when the post office, if you put the wrong postage on a post office item, that it always goes postage due or goes return to sender, right? And how irritating that is. But you can go to and you'll get the customer that'll come in and they'll say, well, it was only $15.40 at the post office, and you're looking at your cost, and your cost says it's more than that. And you go, well, they did something wrong. And they probably did. Sometimes that happens. It used to happen at my store all the time. My post office always did the wrong thing. There's a little trick the post office has when you go to the counter at the post office and buy postage for a package or something, and they print it out and they put it on that, there's a code in there, and the post office knows that that postage was created by the post office, and it can never go postage due, even if that post office clerk made a mistake. It can never go postage due, and it can never be returned to sender for wrong postage. It will always get through no matter what the postage is, so it doesn't make the post office clerk look bad. Isn't that clever? That's kind of what I think this is. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself. on this. So, and the FedEx website will give them the 2-pound rate every time, even though dimensionalized it's 6 pounds on a large box. So it's we're hoping FedEx can come up with a good answer on this. So what else is coming in PostalMate? Ooh, wouldn't you like to know? So version 14.4, as I said, is coming out in mid-April. We are now already working on the next PostalMate update. That PostalMate update will be our summer release, or I'm hoping for early summer release. We will be showing the feature. So last year we had our largest technology update we've ever done in PostalMate since we moved to Windows from DOS. Oh my gosh, that was so. The next version of PostalMate to me is the biggest feature we have ever introduced in PostalMate. So I put this on par with as big of a deal to you as our rate comparison screen. It's going to, I believe, if used correctly and designed correctly, and I'm hoping to have a hand in the design, I am hoping it will be able to make you more money every time you ship, or most of the time when you ship. So I'm really excited. We will be introducing it at conventions. I hope to have a working version of it good enough to show at RS Expo in late May. For the Sooner convention, there's no way. We're just starting design work on it, so I won't be able to show it, but we'll be able to talk about it. So if you are at that RS Expo, you will have the opportunity to see it in action, I hope. Certainly learn about it. We will teach about it. We will talk about it, and you will be able to ask questions about it. So I'm very, very excited. And you know me, I'm all about the making money. I'm all about rates. So I think this is going to be a really awesome feature. And that's all I'm going to give you as a teaser. Otherwise, you will find out if you're not able to attend that expo, that's fine. I understand. Not everybody can. You have life. We will, of course, hold a webinar when it's ready, and I will explain everything to you there. Okay. So at that point, we're going to move to the Q&A. I have, like I said, I had 1,500 people sign up for this webinar. The webinar only holds 1,000. I have way over 900 attendees currently logging in. If you all ask questions, we're going to get nothing answered. I'm going to do my best though, guys. You know, while you're typing in your questions, and I'm sorry, I want to go to PostalMate. So this is version 14.4, and I'm just going to set up the the label broker QR code. So let's just walk through that. So to enable it, you're going to go in PostalMate up to the top to Tools, PostalMate Settings, and then you're going to go to Drop-off Settings. You will go to Service, and we're going to go down and find Post Office, USPS. There's a new button right here, Enable USPS Label Broker QR Code. It's beta. Okay, so we're going to click OK and save and close. That's it. You're all set up. Now, next person walks into your store and they have a QR code. Awesome possum. You click this button as normal. You see a new button here. Now, if it was a regular one, you'd just scan it as normal. But if it's QR, you're going to print this one, click this one here, and now you're going to scan that QR code. Okay, so I don't have a scanner attached, but I happen to have a QR code, so we're going to do that. Now, I will tell you that the return zip code on this does not match my store. So I'll click OK, and it wants the 5-digit zip code. Now I'm going to enter that if I can find it here. And click OK. And it prints the label, just like that. Now I close. It's going to remind me, would you please ensure that each shipping label printed is scanned as a drop-off? Would you like to continue? I would say no, and now I'd put it in here and I'd scan the actual package as a drop-off and then click record and then close. And I don't have a scanner again, so I can't do that. So I'm going to click yes here and close. So easy peasy. QR codes will not work at this time at the kiosk. This is only a counter available service with this button. It will not work at the kiosk. We may make that an option in the future. The reason it's not an option now is because we have never told you that you're going to need a label printer connected to that computer. That's your kiosk computer. So we will look at that for a future enhancement, and we will make it optional so that you don't have to have it available at the kiosk if you don't want. So that is a possible. All right, getting to questions, and hopefully okay, so okay, well, wow, some of these we got already answered. You guys typed in your questions earlier, and so if you belong to a particular franchise and you already are doing QR codes, we are not changing their technology. That's not our technology. We are not changing their technology at all. Just the PostalMate screens will change. It will still use their technology. If you have questions about how anything will work in the future with them, you would reach out to your franchise. Is there an update needed to accept USPS QR codes? Yes, that will be 14.4. That will be in mid-April. Any of the scanners on that page that are 2D scanners are acceptable. I think we answered all of those. AJ, that would not be our technology. Okay. Question. Sorry, guys. Most of these I've answered already. It is the zip code of the billing or the return address usually. It can be the billing address, but the return address usually for a label broker. Okay. If you don't scan USPS packages in as drop-offs, you don't have to. You can just exit out of that screen. It's going to nag you each time. There's no turn off for that nag at this time. So just think of it as your mother-in-law. Oh, sorry, mother-in-laws. I'm a mother-in-law, so I get it. Okay. Yes, you must have a 2D scanner. A 1D scanner will not work for this. How do you make money on QR codes? Well, when FedEx has them, each one of those QR code scans that produces a label, that you then enter that as a drop-off. So you will receive drop-off compensation for that. Second of all, it's going to bring more stores to you, more people to your store. So more people will become familiar with your store. Once people see how well they're treated in your store, hopefully they will come back and do more business with you. So that's how you're going to make money. Are you allowed to charge a fee for printing the QR codes? For label broker, USPS doesn't have any rules about that. So I suppose if you wanted to, you could. I would do it as goodwill, but you know, if you want to. But the answer for FedEx is no, you cannot charge a fee for that. That's part of your FASC program. Yes, some of these I have no idea. Sorry. Do I see Amazon extending or changing the contract with the UPS stores to allow PostMate to access anytime within the next year? No, I don't. They would already be in talks with us, and they are not. Do I see it ever happening? Yeah, I see it possible in the future, but they have not ever reached out to us, to my knowledge, for this. But I think that in time they will. Here's the magic about PostalMate. As you know, the UPS stores, they're in every major city in America, most suburbs in America, but they're not out in the rural areas like our PostMate stores are. They don't have the outreach. There's no UPS store, for example, in Payson, Arizona, which is 90 miles northeast of Phoenix. The nearest UPS store to them is probably 90 miles. And and there's no Kohl's there. It's a small community but they have several pack and ship stores, and they have one or two PostalMate stores there. So we can service areas that are what we call underserved right now, and be a resource for Amazon if they would just understand that value. So I'm hoping that somebody at Amazon is smart enough to want to expand it to PostalMate. And it's not for lack of trying, but Amazon's a big company. They don't have to talk to you if they don't want to talk to you. Commercial invoice, for those of you who are new, is the same thing as the customs form. Those are interchangeable terms in PostalMate. Who supplies the tax ID? That is, your customer should give it. Is it required for all countries? It's not. If you right now we only know of those 4 countries. If you want more information, please research and Google it. It is not PostalMate's responsibility to keep you up on all those country changes. That if the carrier requires something new, they should be informing you of this. But as a professional shipper, you should be subscribing to news in the industry that hopefully does address this. And you should be very familiar with Google search. Okay. The tax ID is not different every time. The recipient, that person who lives or works in that country or that company in that country, will only have one. That's theirs forever and ever. Therefore, it will never change. So once you enter it in PostMate, remember, it's not put on the customer record, it's put on the ship to record. So we did have somebody that just reported that their documents were returned for lack of tax ID to Mexico. So I think we should use that. Sorry. I think we should use that as a possible warning that maybe we should have the tax ID for documents as well as packages. So you heard it here first. Um, Rashad, that is something completely different. You're talking about an EEI. Please Google search the information regarding an EEI. Okay. All right. I think, let me scroll down to the bottom here and see. Is a tax ID only for commercial addresses? No. Individuals have them as well as companies. They're a little bit different number, but every person who is a citizen of Mexico, and I suppose living in Mexico, I think you can get them even as a non-citizen if you're living there. But if you're like a visitor at a hotel, clearly you won't have one. So I don't know what the answer is there. Call your carrier. That's your answer. Um, yeah, tax ID is required for all international shipments to those countries. Does not matter what carrier. Okay, let me go real quickly. Let's do this. I want to show you. We're going to do a parcel, and I'm just going to pick it from. And let's go to country, and let's go in. Actually, let's just add new here. Well, I was hoping we'd have that. Maybe Mexico. And like I said, this is not the final build, so I'm not wholly convinced that this. Oh, maybe that was it. Let's edit that and see. There we go. Look at this right down here, guys. Okay, it's not going to be that long, but it is long, by the way. These are like 13 and 18 numbers long, and every country has their own length. But Mexico, I want to say it's 13 minimum of 13 numbers and a maximum of 18 numbers, something like that. So they're really, really long. And this has a 30 or 35 number character limit. And they are not all numeric only. Some are alphanumeric, so letters and numbers. And I know the ones to Mexico are letters and numbers. So something like that. Okay. So there it is. And there we go. So if I were to have added, let's see if I already canceled this and it's too late. Yep. If I were to have added and selected the country, then that should have populated, I think. So let's go here. Let's go add. Let's see if I'm wrong. And it should be to every country. It should be available. So let's just play with that. Let's go United Kingdom. Yeah, here it is. So it is available for every country, even though United Kingdom doesn't use them. But we don't know that they won't use them in the future. Like I said, we're not going to keep track of it for you. So we're going to have this available for you for every country outside the United States. Okay. Dawn, I have no idea what you're talking about, sweetie. How would I, how would I know if the carriers are billing me too much? New owner here. Great question. So I'm going to recommend two tools for you. First of all, you need to reconcile your bill. But to make it easier, there's two companies that have fantastic tools to help you with that. One is called PM Tools, our friends over at V Software Tools, and they have a billing reconciliation tool. When I had my store, I had PM Tools and used their billing reconciliation tool. We have some billing reconciliation too, but when I had my store, we didn't have it in PostalMate yet. So PM Tools, I used theirs. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It really helped me out and making sure that I'm billed close to what I should be billed. Now, the carrier bill is going to be different than yours on occasion with the occasional package. Either you measured it differently, you weighed it differently, you said it was commercial, they said it was residential. Those things happen. But it should not be on every shipment. It should not be consistent. Either you're doing something wrong, your account's keyed in wrong, something's wrong. So, and I do have one more bit of important information I want to share about that. The other partner company we have that has a tool for you is called parcelbilling.com. And they're newer on the block with this. Theirs, I would say, is even easier to read. They just color code it. Green means that you matched. Blue means you made more money than in other words, the carrier charged you less than you had thought. And red means that you were charged more than you thought you should be. And that just makes it super, super simple. So those are the companies I recommend. PM Tools, that's at V as in Victor, softwaretools.com. And then the other one is parcelbilling.com. Both of those I recommend highly. So I'm going to tell you about a bug that is in the FedEx rate system right now, and they are working on it. And it is very rare, but please understand, we send through PostalMate several million packages a year for FedEx between all of our stores. So in those several million packages, several 100,000 packages every month, we have seen instances of this happening where when you request a rate in PostalMate, they will send you the wrong rate. And so you will quote your customer $30. And then you say, oh, that's the best rate. That's one the customer wants. Click finish, and it goes off. Then you're billed $55. And you're going, what the heck happened? And when we request that rate, it's very rare. I think we've got like 4 examples since August of this. But when we request the rate from them, we request the rate 2 times. We request it when you go out and ask for rates, and it comes back and shows on the rate comparison screen. But we request it again behind the scenes, and it doesn't populate in PostMate, but it does in the logs. It goes out and it gets the rate when you actually press finish and get the label. So it basically records in the logs that rate. So we have in the logs both rates, and that's why we know it was a FedEx issue, is that we see in the logs, remember those logs that we were purging? This is one of the reasons. We can see in the logs on these 4 package occasions that the request for the rate came back from FedEx at one rate, and then when we requested the label, it came back at a different rate, and that one matched their bill. That will not happen anymore. Okay, in version 14.4, we put in mitigating feature, of mitigating feature that will make it so that doesn't happen. So we don't know how common this is. It could be more common than we think. I think it's very rare, but we will find out now. And here's what we did. So from this point forward, 14.4 forward, when we send out to get a rate, and let's say it comes back $30, and you press finish, and it goes out, and let's say it comes back and it's $55. PostalMate will not complete that shipment, will not give you a label. It will immediately void that shipment and say, there was an error, please reship the package, and it will take you back to the rate comparison screen. When you do that, it has asked for that rate again. And what we have found is it generally, we've never seen where it asks, it gets back a wrong rate again a second time. So we are protecting you again by not allowing that package to go forward. And then you'll have to, unfortunately, you'll have to tell your customer, sorry, there was a glitch in the rate that came back, and it's changed. And that's an unfortunate thing. We do hope that FedEx will get that corrected. Here's the problem with it. It's so rare, it's very hard to pinpoint why. It doesn't happen to one specific account. It doesn't happen repeatedly. It's extremely random. So, so it has to be investigated bit by bit. So I want you to let us know how frequently you're getting that message that pops up that causes you to go back to the rate comparison and select and redo that package. That will tell us how common it is. It will also, when it happens, it will give us more logs, because we're still going to be producing logs. We're just purging the old ones. It will also produce logs that we can provide FedEx to help them find this bug and correct it. Okay. Now, having said that, I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell you that just because FedEx builds you different than you think it should be does not mean you have experienced this bug. In fact, for 99% of you, that is not the case. For 1% of you, it is. 99% of the cases, it's something else. It's either they measured it differently, they weighed it differently, they had to do an address correction and it went to a different zip code. You said commercial, they said residential. It's a different factor than what this bug is. I don't want you jumping to because I shared this with you. I don't want you thinking this is the reason that you got charged extra. I'm almost certain in most cases it's not the reason. Okay, so I don't want to give you ammunition, and the billing department at FedEx will not correct this. Okay, they can't correct it because because they charged you the right amount. That's the problem. It was the quote that came in the wrong amount in the first place. So can that be proven? Yes, it can be proven. It's really hard. It takes a lot of effort to prove. So I don't have an easy path for that right now. Okay, I think we're pretty much done. Again, I'm going to re-say because people didn't listen. Maybe they were distracted by a customer. We talked a lot about QR codes today. If you belong to a franchise that already takes QR codes, then you are using their technology for that. Even though you scan them in PostMate, it's fed to their technology for that. That will still be the path for you. You will see the screen difference in PostalMate, and you will use this, but once you scan it in and send OK, it will go through your franchise's technology. So I keep getting a bunch of questions up. I've been doing QR codes for ages. Well, again, I already said to you, if you belong to a franchise that has their own technology, much of what we said does not pertain to you at this time. There will be a time, most likely, that we will merge those and you will not be using their technology anymore for consistency's sake, because it's redundant to have two systems, right? But for now, if you're in a franchise that has their own technology, that hasn't changed for you. The entry will. You will have this QR code button. Okay. Oh, so as an independent store that does not belong to a franchise, In version 14.4, everything I have said to you is true. If you belong to a different franchise that does not have QR code capability right now, everything I have said in this webinar is true. You will be able to do label broker QR codes upon updating to 14.4. You will be able to do FedEx QR codes as soon as we release it later on when FedEx has completed their technology endpoint. Okay. All righty. I think we're through it. Folks, if you have more questions, you can field them to our support team, support@pcsynergy.com. I would highly recommend you wait until you get 14.4 and install it and go through a few things before you email so that you have an educated opinion of what your question should be. Your action item today is to look at techshedusa.com and look at the scanners that we support. Our hardware requirements currently have only 4 of those scanners listed. That is, those hardware requirements will be updated soon to include all 11 of those. So I'm telling you point blank, if TechShed USA sells it, we will support it. Otherwise, I hope that you had a great time with our webinar today. I hope you enjoyed it. This was recorded. We will be emailing it to all those who have registered. So if you had to step away, you're covered. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Hope to see you at a convention soon. Take care. Bye-bye.